The direction for the project, which I'm doing now, is attracting people. I'm working together with one project, one member, and we were thinking about. I was thinking about attracting people in the city center at first by having like place on the floor, which when you're walking over it, something will happen, and then you can think about everything which reacts on senses. So wind, temperature, smell, just everything which will be having a surprise effect. But then there will be nothing on which you can see where it is from, and then you will maybe walk back and just try it again, and after it's just you will remind it, but then it's gone.
Right.
And you will walk through the city center, and then you remind that smell or that feeling again, and then you will be attracted to an information board or something which reminds you to that, so that you will be really interested. Okay. That's one idea, and for that idea I want you to give some feedback or...
Right, well, the thing is that you'd have to have quite a lot of these things, because to expect somebody, if you put it in the real context, in the real time, you have quite a lot of people walking within the city, which means that the chances that somebody's going to walk in one spot specifically first and then in the other are not very high.
Yeah.
Even if they do, the chances that they're going to make the connection are also not very high, or even lower. They're going to make the connection between the first thing that happened and the second. So I think that also you have to be a bit more explicit with it. So, I think in terms of if you were going to research behavior, we're going to observe behavior of people and see what the reaction is when they make this connection, then it's very interesting. But also because we're dealing with a real world context in which you get people that for the most part are not looking out for these things, and they're not actively looking for these connections, and are actually generally not trained to find these connections. And that means that you really have to make it much more obvious. As sad as that sounds, you do, because we would love for people to create these patterns in their mind, but to expect a regular person, and I don't know what that means, regular, but to expect a person who's not a designer in this department to find those connections is not very realistic.
Really hard. Okay. And then I was thinking about you can guide people through or navigate them through an exhibition, and sometimes it's really done like having a map and you can see which direction you have to go, and sometimes this is done without being really aware of it yourself. And I want to experiment with carpets, which like hair, it's just growing in one direction, and it's you are going through your hair like that and not pushing it forward, because it's not a nice feeling. And if you would have a carpet like this way, then you would walk through it like that, because it's just the direction in which it goes. And I'm thinking about some kind of experimenting with this, but I'm not sure if it's really like too big to involve the exhibition.
All right. I mean, what I do like about, I don't know about the direction and all that. I don't know if that would actually really make any difference in people. But what I do like about this is that you call attention to whatever this is. I don't know exactly what this is, but if this was, let's say...
Could be like a prototype or information.
Okay, right. So if this is a point of information, then now you're thinking about how do you call attention to that specifically. And I think that the opportunity would be to design behavior in this, right? So in a way, it's almost regardless of what that behavior is, because you're in a different context, because you're outside in the city, and like I said, because people tend to be quite they are impressed with the technology. I just told you that for us that's not enough. But if you're outside where there's no project being compared to, but it's really just catching attention, then I think that if you design this if you design behavior in this sort of thing, in order to get attention for this, which is actually the point of information that you want, then I think that would be very interesting. It's more towards advertisement in a way. And it doesn't have to necessarily link to the content in here, but it links in the way that it shows a bit of what it is that we do in terms of competencies.
Yeah, because it's like not really like technology or the vision which the TV has. And I was wondering if it really does matter.
Well, I mean, the way that I imagine this to be would be that this is not a passive thing, but it does something.
Yeah.
It reacts somehow. And it can be done very simply, but it needs to react somehow. Otherwise, then it's a static thing, and we don't really deal with static things, right? So that's a bit of the challenge of it all. That it needs to react.
Yeah.
Even if it's the simplest reaction, it needs to react to something.
Yeah, because then I made some other things, which you can see here.
Yeah.
And that's about like when you have plastics, like in that direction, you will go through that direction because you can't go back.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the hairy thing.
Yeah.
So that will give you a direction. You also can have a look at speed, because when you have a flat floor, then you will walk fast. But when you have sand or a different material, you walk like slower.
Yeah.
Then you are not really like having interaction with technology, but you do have interaction because you are interacting with the.
Right. But the thing is that even for any of these, this is you cannot do this in the entire city, right? So you do have a dedicated spot in which you do it. But even before you encounter this thing, you're gonna see something, right?
Yeah.
So you know something's happening there. I think this is zooming in already a lot, meaning that it's basically when there's a person standing here, what happens? And that's one thing you need to look at, of course. But I think in order to figure out what this is, the first thing you need to look at is outside. So when you zoom out and I'm standing here and I see something happening here, what do I see first of all? And what is going to attract me to this point? And then what happens from this point? So you need to zoom out first a bit, I think. Because none of this is going to make any difference, because if I just walk next to it, then this means nothing to me.
Yeah.
So you really need to step up first and then design from that and zoom in.
Okay. Well, then thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I can work with this.
I hope so.
Bye.
All right.